Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring session looking at Sir Giles Goosecap, probably by George Chapman. We have done the first two acts. We have found many innovating things to enjoy in the text so far. That's not to say we aren't critical of some of the excesses of the script, but generally we're going with it. We're going with the groove. We're going to see what the middle of the play throws up. I say we've done two acts of the play, and for a performance of the play on Saturday, the 18th of September, 1602. Not only have we gone through two acts, we've had a musical interlude of an hour before the show started as well. So, this I think I'm ready for some snacks, maybe a drink. I don't know how long the intervals are for the Indoor Boys Company plays, but we have a bit of, presumably a little musical interlude between Act 2 and Act 3 where we're starting here. We've had the promise that we're going to visit Lord and Lady Furnifall, so we shall find out who they are and what they are like. And to discover what the middle of the play is like, we have this wonderful team of readers, and reading today the parts of Clarence and Furnifall is...
Hello, I'm Emma Kemp. I'm an actor and I'm in London.
Reading Sir Giles Goosecap is...
Aliki Chapple, actor and translator, based in the north of England.
Reading Foulweather and Eugenia is...
Sarah Blake, actor, writer and director, based in Germany.
Reading Momford today is...
Lois Potter, retired academic, based in London.
Reading Bullaker and Hippolyta today is...
Me. I have come prepared with snacks and drink.
Excellent.
I'm Eric, by the way.
Eric of the snacks. Reading Penelope today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a college composition teacher coming to you from the northwestern United States.
And reading Tales today is...
Hi, I'm Kyle Diroberto, educator based in Tucson, Arizona.
And reading Kingcob today is...
I am Steve Longstaffe, based in the northwest of England.
Reading Will today is...
Hello, Dan, actor based in Montpellier, France.
And reading Rudesby today is...
Alan, civilian in Suffolk.
And we might have an additional reader joining us shortly. But otherwise, I am your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally keeping things moving forward. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 3. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Rudesby and Goosecap.
Bullaker!
Aye, sir.
Ride and catch the captain's horse.
So I do, sir.
I wonder, Sir Giles, you would let him go so and not ride after him.
Would I might never be mortal, Sir Cut, if I rid not after him till my horse sweat so that he had ne'er a dry thread on him, and hollowed to him to stay till I had thought my fingers' ends would have gone off with hollowings, I'll be sworn to you. And yet he ran his way like a Diogenes and would never stay for us.
How shall we do to get the lame captain to London now his horse is gone?
Why, he is but a lame jade, neither, Sir Cut. We shall soon overtake him, I warrant ye.
And yet thou sayest thou gallops after him as fast as thou couldst not catch him. Alay my life, some crabfish has bitten thee by the tongue, thou speakest so backward still.
But here's all the doubt, Sir Cut. If nobody should catch him now, when he comes at London, some boy or another would get up on him and ride him hot into the water to wash him. Oh, I'll be sworn I followed one that rid my horse into the Thames till I was up to the knees hitherto, and if it had not been for fear of going over shoes, because I am troubled with the rheum, I would have taught him to wash my horse when he was hot, in faith.
Enter Foulweather.
How now, sweet captain? Dost feel any ease in thy pain yet?
Ease in his pain, quoth you? It's good luck if he feel ease in pain, I think. But would any ass in the world ride down such a hill as Highgate is, in such a frost as this, and never light?
God's précieux, Sir Cuthbert, your Frenchman never lights, I tell ye.
Light, Sir Cuthbert! Slight, I had my horse again. There's ne'er a paltry English frost on them should bake me light.
Go to, you French zanies, you. You will follow the French steps along till you be not able to set one sound step of the ground all the days of your life.
Why, Sir Cut, I care not if I be sound, so I be well. But we were justly plagued by this hill for following women thus.
Ay, and Englishwomen too, Sir Giles.
Thou art still prating against English women? I've seen none of the French dames, I confess. But your greatest gallants for men in France were here lately, I'm sure. And methinks there should be no more difference betwixt our ladies and theirs than there is between our lords and theirs. And our lords are as far beyond them, i' faith, for person and courtship as they are beyond ours for fantasticality.
Oh, Lord, Sir Cuthbert, I am sure our ladies hold our lords tack for courtship, and yet the French lords put them down. You noted it, Sir Giles?
Oh, God, sir, I stood and heard it as I sat in the presence.
How did they put them down, I pray thee?
Why, for wit and for courtship, Sir Cuthbert.
Just how, good left-handed Francois?
Why, sir, when Monsieur Lambois came to your mistress, the lady Hippolyta, she sat in the presence... sit down here, good Sir Giles Goosecap. She kneeled me by her thus, sir, and with a most quaint French start in his speech of, bellissime, I desire to die now, says he, for your love that I might be buried here.
A good pick-hatched compliment, by my faith. But I prithee, what answered she?
She? I scorn to note that, I hope. Then did he vie it again with another ha!
That was ha! Ha! I would have put a third ha to it if it had been my mistress, and ha'd him out of the presence, i' faith.
Ah! Says he, these fair eyes I would not remillion they were in France. They would renew all our civil wars again.
That was not so good, methinks, Captain.
Well judged, i' faith. There was as little wit in that, I must confess, but she put him down far and answered him with a question, and that was whether he would seem a lover or a jester. A lover? I must tell her far more likelier than those, or else she was far from believing them. If a jester, she could have had much more ridiculous jests than his, at 20 fools that followed the court, and told him he'd at least be courted with a brush faggot as with a Frenchman, that spent itself all in sparks and would sooner fire one's chimney than warm the house, and that such sparks were good enough yet to set thatched dispositions afire, but hers was tiled with a slight and respected them as slightly.
Why so, Captain? And yet you talk of your great Frenchmen. Would to God little England had never known them, I may say.
Oh, what's the matter, Sir Giles? Are you out of love with Frenchmen now of a sudden?
Slid, Captain, would not make one. I'll be sworn they took away a masty dog of mine by commission. Now I think on't, makes my tears stand in my eyes with grief. I had rather lost my dearest friend that ever I lay withal in my life by this light. Never stir if he fought not with great Sackerson 4 hours to 1. Foremost take up hindmost, and took so many loaves from him that he starved him presently. So at last the dog could do no more than a bear could do, and the bear, being heavy with hunger, fell upon the dog, broke his back, and the dog never stirred more.
Why, thou sayest the Frenchman took him away?
Frenchman, aye, so they did, too. But yet, and he had not been killed, it would ne'er aggrieve me.
Oh, excellent! Unity of speech.
And we're going to pause there. So just a quick check round the room. Anyone have a clue what is being said?
Nope.
Who's lost? Put your hands up if you're lost. Okay, this is a recurring problem with this text of the... Okay, I vaguely know what's going on and I vaguely know what they're talking about, but I don't know precisely what they're talking about. And frequently they are making allusions to things that I'm sure made sense then, but unless I've got big glossy notes back projected on the theatre wall, I genuinely, it just keeps sliding off the side of me, and I'm really struggling. Even though I'm sure there's some nice stuff in there. There's a bit that seems to be Foulweather is trying to get a scene enacted by the other people. Like, you sit here. I don't know if he was just saying you sit down, but it felt like they were doing a little play acting bit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't fully developed to know what was going on. So there's lots of things in here that I'm not sure. So I'll go to Lois, then Aliki, then Lynn, and see what the room thinks.
Yeah, I mean, the context clearly is that they were all riding down Highgate Hill, and presumably, I can't make out how many of them fell off their horses, but Foulweather, clearly, one of them at least, the horses galloped away, and Sir Giles seems to be talking as if he didn't have a horse, and Foulweather shouldn't have been riding it down anyway. He should have been walking, they say. I mean, I got that bit. I'm not quite sure. Are they on their way to see these ladies who are not there, or have they already come back from not seeing these ladies who were not there?
Yeah, that's a good question, because they were sent to Barnet, weren't they?
Yeah.
So we're in the right ballpark for that sort of thing, but it's not quite clear precisely what's going on, unless other people have more clarity on it. Aliki, then Lynn.
I think they're trying to find the ladies, or heading in the direction of them, and haven't found them. And Foulweather is talking about how good Frenchmen are at courting ladies, and that was the play acting bit. I'll be the Frenchman, Goose-cap, you be the lady. She sat there, and he went and did this.
Oh.
That's how I took that. And I think that most of what Goose-cap is saying seems to be about sports of one kind or another. How you treat a good riding horse, and then the dog that he had bet on or possibly had in a dog fight. Well, I think his mind keeps wandering off to things that he finds more interesting, which is betting on animals.
I'll go back to Lois before I go to Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Goose-cap is meant to be nonsense, isn't it? I mean, statements that kind of contradict themselves. He talks about Frenchmen stealing his dog, and then it turns out that they took it away, but only after it had already been killed by a bear. So they didn't really steal it. And, I mean, a lot of it, everybody just keeps taking him up on these things.
Yeah, and it's just for context for those who weren't here the other day, they were sent on this wild goose chase to Barnet, and as I think Emma put in the chat, if we're going via Highgate is quite high, so and they were complaining about how much. It's a long way to walk. That's how many miles is it? Is it 10 miles and all the rest of it? Well, it may not be as the crow flies, but once you've gone up and down a bit, it definitely feels like it, because it really is a genuinely hard climb at that particular point. So they have legitimate reasons for falling off horses and being knackered at this stage. Lynn.
Yeah, so and I think part of what we're struggling with is the topicality. They talked in a passage yesterday about a baboon, and like nobody in the room had heard of this particular famous primate. But Sackerson is a name I am almost positive I've heard before. He was a bear, right? Yeah. So he was a bear that had famous because he killed a bunch of dogs, and so. Yeah, that's a topical reference. So that maybe if we, had lived 400 years ago, we would understand more of it. But yeah, the Goose-cap has a couple of things going on. He's like interested in sporting activity, like Aliki said, and he doesn't make any sense. Kind of like Tails, who was defending him, who was his wingman, yesterday, that like praising him in these ways that can't possibly be true. So he and his defender have the same shtick. So yeah, maybe we don't need them both. Editor's note.
Yeah,
These people we don't need.
Yeah, and yeah, if we got a famous bear, we should check. I'm sure Box Office Bears the Box Office Bears projects has probably got something on it on their website, so that might be a place to go and look at famous, or for that matter, infamous bears that are available, and more and the economics and the function of the whole bear entertainment industry is can be found. I will hopefully remember to put links in the show notes for that. Because that is an interesting thing. Okay, we're mid-scene. We paused to just take stock. I feel there's a lot of work to make that sequence work, but maybe once you're there, a few tweaks that might work. I don't know. We're going to have the entrance of the servants Will and Jack at several doors now. I'll ask Lois, could you read a Jack, please? Because I don't think you clash later on. So enter Will and Jack at several doors.
Save ye, knights.
Save you, Captain.
Pages! Welcome, my fine pages.
Welcome, boys.
Welcome, sweet Will. Good Jack.
But how chance you are so far from London now, pages? It is not almost dinner time?
Yes, indeed, sir. But we left our fellows to wait for once, and could not choose in pure love to your worships. But we must needs come and meet you before you met our ladies to tell you a secret.
A secret? What secret, I pray thee?
If ever your worships say anything, we are undone forever.
Oh,
No,
not for a world. Believe it.
Believe it.
Why then? This it is. We overheard our ladies as they were talking in private say they refused to meet you at Barnet this morning of purpose because they would try which of you was most patient.
And some said you, Sir Giles, another you, Sir Cuthbert, and the third you, Captain.
This was excellent.
Then did they swear one another not to excuse themselves to you by any means, that they might try to you the better. Now, if they shall see you, say nothing in the world to them, what may come of it, when ladies begin to try their suitors at once, I hope your wisdoms can judge a little.
Oh, my little knave, let us alone now, if faith. Would I might be cashiered if I say anything.
Faith, and I can forbear my tongue as well as another, I hope.
Would I might be degraded if I could speak a word. I'll tell them I care not for losing my labour.
Come, knights, shall we not reward the pages?
Yes, prithee do. Sir Giles, give the boys something.
Never stir, Sir Cuthbert, if I have ever a groat about me, but 1 threepence.
Well, knights, I'll lay out for us all. Here, my fine pages.
Offers money.
No, indeed, and it please your worship.
Oh, pages, refuse a gentleman's bounty.
Oh, cry you mercy, sir. Thank you, sweet Captain.
And what other news is sterling, my fine villacos?
Marry, sir, they are invited to a great supper tonight to your your house captain, the Lord Furnifall. And there will be your great cousin, Sir Giles Goosecap, the Lord Tails, and your uncle, Sir Cuthbert Rudesby, Sir Clement Kingcob.
The Lord Tails? What countryman is he?
A Kentish lord, sir. His ancestors came forth of Canterbury.
Out of Canterbury?
Aye, indeed, sir. The best tales in England are your Canterbury tales, I assure you.
Oh no, sorry, that's just a criminally bad pun. Sorry, no. It's the fact it's a terrible joke and it's a terrible joke that we get is delightful, but it's still a truly awful joke. Just no. Carry on.
Okay.
The boy tells the truth, Captain.
He writes his name, sir, Tales, Tales, and he being the 10th son his father had, his father christened him Decum Tales, and so his whole name is the Lord Decum Tales.
Oh, my mortality, the boy knows more than I do of our house.
But is the Lady Furnifall, Captain, still of the same drinking humour she was wont to be?
Still of the same, knight, and is never in any sociable vein till she be tipsy, for in her sobriety she is mad, and veers my good little old lord out of all proportion.
And therefore, as I hate, he will earnestly invite guests to his house a purpose to make his wife drunk, and then dotes on her humour most profanely.
'Tis very true, knight. We will sup with them tonight, and you shall see her. And now I think on it, I'll tell you a thing, knights, wherein perhaps you may exceedingly pleasure me.
Well, what's that, good captain?
I am desirous to help my lord to a good merry fool, and if I could help him to a good merry one, he might do me very much credit, I assure ye.
Blood, thou speakest to us as if we could serve thy turn.
Oh, France! Sir Cuthbert, your Frenchman would not have taken me so far for a world, but because fools come into your companies many times to make you merry.
As thou dost.
Nay, good Sir Cuthbert, you know fools do come into your companies.
Aye, and thou knowst it too. No man better.
Bear with choler, Sir Giles.
But would you help your lord to a good fool so fain, sir?
Aye, my good page, exceeding fain.
You mean a wench, do you not, sir? A foolish wench.
Nay, I would have a man fool for his lordship, page.
Does his lordship love a fool so well, I pray?
Assure thyself, page, my lord loves a fool as he loves himself.
Of what degree would you have your fool, sir? For you may have of all manner of degrees.
Faith, I would have him a good emphatical fool, one that would make my lord laugh well, and I cared not.
Laugh well. Then we must know this, sir. Is your lord costive of laughter or laxative of laughter?
Nay, he is a good merry little lord, and indeed something laxative of laughter.
Why then, sir, the less wit will serve his lordship's turn. Marry, if he had been a costive of laughter, he must have had 2 or 3 drams of wit the more in his fool. For we must minister according to the quantity of his lordship's humour, you know. And if he should have as much wit in his fool being laxative of laughter as if he were costive of laughter, why he might laugh himself into an epilepsy and fall down dead suddenly, as many have done with the extremity of that passion. And I know your lord cares for nothing but the health of a fool.
Thou'rt in the right, my notable good page.
Why, and for that health, sir, we will warrant his lordship that if he should have all Bacon de Sanitate Tuenda read to him, it should not please his lordship so well as our fool shall.
Remercie, my more than English pages.
Oh, my word, I have not seen pages have so much wit that have never been in France, Captain.
'Tis true indeed, Sir Giles. Well then, my almost French elixirs, will you help my lord to a fool so fit for him, as you say?
As fit, I'll warrant you, Captain, as if he were made for him, and he shall come this night to supper and fool where his lordship sits at table.
Excellent fit. Fail not now, my sweet pages.
Oh, not for a world, sir. We will go both and seek him presently.
Do so, my good wags.
Save you, knights.
Save you, Captain.
Exeunt Will and Jack.
Farewell, my pretty knaves. Come, knights, shall we resolve to go to this supper?
What else?
And let's provide torches for our men to sit at the door withal, Captain.
That we will, I warrant you, Sir Giles.
Torches? Why, the moon will shine, man.
The moon, Sir Cuthbert, I scorn the moon. In faith, Slid, sometimes a man shall not get her to shine, and if he would give her a couple of capons, and one of them must be white, too. God forgive me, I never could abide her since yesterday. She served me such a trick the other night.
What trick, Sir Giles?
Why, Sir Cuthbert, 'cause the days be mortal and short now, you know, and I love daylight well. I thought it went away faster than needed, and run after it into Finsbury Fields in the calm evening to see the windmills go, and even as I was going over a ditch, the moon, by this light, a purpose runs me behind a cloud and lets me fall into the ditch, by heaven.
That was ill done in her, indeed, Sir Giles.
Ill done, Sir Cuthbert. Slid, a man may bear, and she have no more good manners but to make every black slovenly cloud a pearl in her eye. I shall never love English moon again while I live, I'll be sworn to you.
Oh, come, knights, to London! Horse! Horse! Horse!
Exeunt Foulweather and Goose-cap.
In what a case he is with the poor English moon, because the French moons, their torches, will be the less in fashion. And, I warrant you, the captain will remember it too, though he says nothing. He seconds his resolute chase so, and follows him. I'll lay my life you shall see them the next cold night, shut the moonshine out of their chambers, and make it lie without doors all night. I discredit my wit, with their companies, now I think on't. plague of God on 'em. I'll fall a beating on them presently.
And exit. Okay. So the two scallywags come back in. Initially managed to gloss what went wrong with finding the ladies, and then managed to get rewarded for it. And then they're setting up some other shenanigans. Anyone have any trouble following what happened in the rest of the scene? Alan, were you confused?
Totally, sir. I mean, I commented on the previous episode with those. It's three posh boys in search of a brain cell, and they don't seem to be getting any brighter.
I did like the lament against the English moon. I quite like that. That was again. There's these lovely little bits, but there's an awful lot of stuff around it. It's and I'm thinking, was this partly down to the performers? Was there something in the air? Was there something in the water that made this land in a way that doesn't quite seem to land for us today? Alan?
I think the two lads, Jack and Will, I suspect are probably the two star comedy performers of the troupe.
I don't know that they are, because they don't, they're there to move things along, and they do have wit, but they're not given this vast amount of stage time that Foulweather and Rudesby and to a degree Goose-cap get. They're doing big turns here.
Yeah, but I suspect the lads have probably got quite a lot of business that's unscripted.
Yes, but it's still support business. It's to make them, give them opportunity to look silly. It's important work and it's hard work, but it's Will and Jack aren't getting the laughs, if that makes sense. They're setting up the laughs, or at least in this scene.
Well, the comedy task is a vital role. And the other question I asked, and it's been answered in the chat, which is the windmills thing. I did wonder whether this is actually riffing off Quixote.
Lois?
No, it's not. I mean, Finsbury did have windmills. You see them on maps, actually. I've taken people on walks in my area. Finsbury Fields is just south of me, and there are pictures of windmills on the maps.
Other thoughts about this scene? Questions, issues, confusions, hopes, dreams, fears? Someone wave. Thank you. Aliki?
I mean, there seems to be a bit more plot coming in, which is nice, with this whole jester business at the upcoming dinner, and what that's all going to be about, I don't know. But it does seem to be moving along a bit faster than it did.
Yes, we're setting up. This dinner is being set up. Quite. It better be good. Lynn?
There's also, I think, a lot of character exposition just for the fun of it going on here and elsewhere. Goose-cap is just sort of this dithering idiot, and Foulweather's really this affected fake Frenchman, and Rudesby is, like his name says, he's just sort of coarse and he's cheap. It's like, why bring torches? The moon's shining. Like, why pay for why? So I mean, so that's supposed to be funny, just like more showing what goofy characters they are. But I think we know that already by now. Like, again, each scene kind of takes too long to get around to doing what it does.
Yes, it's like again with this problem. There's so little plot. Will and Jack come on, do their initial business of sorting out why they might be in trouble from last time. Because especially as the ladies last time basically said, well, we're not going to help you. Don't draw us into your tricks. We're not going to dob you in it, but we're not going to help you. So they have to make sure that these men don't bring it up at any point, because they're not actually going to be supported by other people. And they get paid for their troubles. And there are nice little details in there, but you're right, there's an awful lot of stuff. Okay, shall we find some more stuff? Who wants more stuff? Let's see if the stuff that's more is exciting, because as we all want to see, we want to see more. Clarence telling us about how sad or happy they are. So Act 3, Scene 2, enter Lord Momford and Clarence and Horatio.
Sing, good Horatio, while I sigh and write. According to my master Plato's mind, the soul is music, and doth therefore joy in accents musical, which he that hates with points of discord is together tied, and barks at reason, consonant in sense. Divine Eugenia bears the ocular form of music and of reason, and presents the soul exempt from flesh inflamed. Who must not love her then that loves his soul? To her I write, my friend, the star of friends, will needs have my strange lines greet her strange eyes. And for her sake, I'll pour my poor soul forth in floods of ink. But did not his kind hand bar me with violent grace, I would consume in the white flames of her impassionate love, ere my harsh lips should vent the odorous blaze. For I am desperate of all worldly joys, and there was never man so harsh to men. When I am fullest of digested life, I seem a lifeless embryon to all, each day wrapped up in night-like funeral. Sing, good Horatio, whilst I sigh and write.
And there's a canto, Horatio sings. Ah! We don't know what Horatio sings.
The letter. Suffer him to love that suffers not loving. My love is without passion, and therefore free from alteration. Prose is too harsh, and verse is poetry. Why should I write then? Merit clad in ink is but a mourner, and as good as naked. I will not write. My friend shall speak for me. Sing one stave more, my good Horatio.
Ha ha ha! Horatio sings again.
I must remember I know whom I love, a dame of learning and of life exempt from all the idle fancies of her sex, and this, that to another dame would seem perplexed and folded in a redless veil, will be more clear than ballads to her eye. I'll write, but if to satisfy my mind. Your third stance, sweet Horatio, and no more.
Ha ha! Sings Horatio or something. We don't know what the song is. There are no details of the songs in this play.
How vainly do I offer my strange love. I marry, and bid states, and entertain ladies with tales and jests, and lords with news, and keep a house to feed Actaeon's hounds and eat their master, and let idle guests draw me from serious search of things divine, to bid them sit and welcome, and take care to soothe their palates with choice kitchen stuff, as all must do that marry and keep house. And then look on the left side of my yoke, or on the right, perhaps, and see my wife, drawing a quite repugnant course from me, busy to starch her French pearls and her puffs, when I am in my anima reflexa, quid sit felicitas, qua origo rerum, and make these beings that are known to be the onlyest serious objects of true men, seem shadows with substantial stir she keeps about her shadows, which, if husbands love, they must believe, and thus my other self brings me another body to dispose, that have already too much of one, and must not look for any soul of her to help to rule two bodies.
Fie, for shame! I never heard of such an anti-dame. Do women bring no help of soul to men? Why, friend, they either are men's souls themselves, or the most witty imitatrixes of them, or prettiest sweet apes of human souls that ever nature framed, as I will prove. For first, they be substantiae lucidae, and purer than men's bodies, like their souls, which men's harsh hairs, both of their breast and chin, occasioned by their gross and ruder heat, plainly demonstrates. Then, like souls, they do movere corpora, for no power on earth moves a man's body as a woman does. Then do they dare formas corpori, or add fair forms to man, as their souls do. But for women, who would care for forms? I vow, I never would wash face nor hands, nor care how ragged or slovenly I went, were it not for women, who of all men's pomps are the true final causes. Then they make men in their seeds immortal, like their souls, that else would perish in a span of time. Oh, they be soul-like creatures, and my niece, the soul of 20 rare souls, stilled in one.
That it is, my lord, that makes me love.
Oh, are ye come, sir? Welcome to my niece, as I may say, at midnight. Gentle friend, what have ye wrote, I pray?
Strange stuff, my lord.
Indeed, the way to believe is to love.
He reads and comments.
And the right way to love is to believe. This will I carry now, with pen and ink for her to use and answer. See, sweet friend, she shall not stay to call, but while the steel of her affection is made soft and hot, I'll strike and take occasion by the brow. Blessed is the wooing that's not long a-doing.
Exit Momford.
Had ever man so true and noble friend? Or would men think this sharp world's freezing air to all true honour and judicial love would suffer such a flourishing pine in both to overlook the box trees of this time? When the learned mind hath by impulsion wrought her eyes clear fire into a knowing flame, no elemental smoke can darken it, nor northern coldness nip her Daphnean flower. O sacred friendship, thanks to thy kind power, that being retired from all the faithless world, appears to me in my unworldly friend. No, and for thine own sake, let his noble mind, by moving precedent to all his kind, just like Deucalion, of earth's stony bones, repair the world with human blood and flesh, and dying virtue with new life refresh.
Exit Clarence. And that's the end of Act 3. Now, we've just completed a whole act, and I'm sure we all have found that the plot has moved on a lot. I mean, has anything actually happened that we could sort of call actual action? No, I mean, nothing's happened. I mean, apart from some setup, but you know, this is sort of where we left Clarence last time, and nothing's changed at all. Dan,
do we really need a plot? And I say that without, I mean,
you're not kidding, right? Like, yeah.
I mean, you watch. I mean, my friend says this all the time about French films versus Hollywood films, where French films are really not necessarily plot driven. They're more character driven. And so I'm saying that this type of play, for example, to me is about what the actors bring to it and the type of humor that is in each scene, rather than what's actually happening. You know, where are we going with this? And you know, Chapman is inspired, but I don't know how it was 400 years ago with the French and what types of entertainments they might have liked, at least in terms of stage, because at this time French plays were not really. I mean, we don't have much history about them during that time period, but this seems to be much more of character-driven and scene-driven versus actually plot-driven. And to me, that's not necessarily an issue as long as people are enjoying themselves. And for me, it's pretty cleverly written. So,
well, I mean, and I don't, because we've been here before with other humans plays and other plays where there isn't really action in this way. I think with some of the other plays we've had that have done a similar thing, there has been more unity within each act of a sort of theme or something. This act feels very much like stuff that we've already had in this play somewhere else, but again, in a slightly different form. And I mean, just again, taking on the sort of future production note of going, I've no idea where to put an interval yet, because there's no sense of it reaching a point for that yet. Though we still have a little more of this session where that area of a single interval action comes in. But yes, I think yes, maybe we are analysing the play in an unfair way and saying, well, the play isn't trying to have a plot, and so we should just enjoy the action as it comes. Lois, then Lynn.
I think if you put the interval after this scene, it will empty the theater. Everybody will decide that they want to get an early train. But I can't make out what Clarence is talking about half the time. I mean, I don't know if this is really meant to be highly intellectual language or whether it's some sort of send-up of it. It kind of goes between the two. It's not really funny enough to work as a send-up, I think. And yet it's not really, it's terribly hard to figure out what he's saying.
It's thing. Is it referencing a text that we're not familiar with? Because earlier last session we had a bit of Dr. Faustus, or seemed to be a bit Dr. Faustus-y for one. And I'm wondering whether each of these is doing some kind of send-up work, or is playing on that, and we just don't know what this one is, or we've read it and we just haven't noticed the similarities or differences. I don't know. I agree. I don't see that this surely must be comic on some level. But the music, what's the music doing? Is the music therefore making actually it's supposed to seem all really sweet and lovely? Because that's an option. It doesn't have to all be aiming for actual comedy. It could actually be supposed to be lovely. But it's not moving me at the moment. Lynn, then Alan, then Aliki.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. It has to be comic. We can't know, because we don't have a time machine, what the author's intentions were or how the audience responded. But I think the only way to make this fly these days is this is a mockery of this is sending up, maybe gently, but sending up kind of Petrarchan style love and wooing. My other sort of random neural firing is like, if this had been written today, or 10 or 20 years ago, if it had been written in the 21st century, what would happen is that at the end, Momford and Clarence would realize that they're in love with each other. It's not, I want you to get with Eugenia because I love you so much and I want you to be happy. And it's like, oh, my friendship, it's just friendship. And then they realize, no, actually, we love each other. We're going to be a couple. And they would get together and the audience would be, oh.
Isn't Momford his uncle?
No,
Momford is his uncle.
Oh, right. Phew.
He called him nephew
worrying me
at one point, hinting that you're going to be my nephew by marriage. Oh, this is going to work out. Yeah.
Alan?
I'm just wondering whether the target is actually the sort of very elaborate courtly verse that I think was prevalent in the late Elizabethan period. I put in the chat that, Clarence's permanent residence is on Sewd's Corner. Because effectively it is all highly overblown, and I think there was quite a vogue for really overblown love poetry in the late Elizabethans.
I mean, we've got these lines like "Sing good Horatio while I sigh and write." I mean, it's very hard to take that wholly seriously because it's too knowing. And how vainly do I offer my strange love? And obviously, strange as shifted slightly, but even so, it's the odd phrasings. Aliki.
So one thing that occurred to me while we were having this discussion is maybe like everything else in the play, it's a very topical set of references. Maybe these are local characters that everybody knows who are being sent up. And if you know Sir Giles Goosecap, maybe you go, oh, that's him to the life, or whatever. We have no way of telling, obviously. The other thing is that I would quite like to workshop that scene a bit with different songs being sung by Horatio. And that might bring out more of the comedy.
Yes, because if the songs are ridiculous, then that goes. And we do have other plays around this time where people are explicitly satirizing actual people, so it's not impossible. And we just haven't figured out who they are. That it's not doing a War of the Theatres very obvious person that we would know about because they write stuff as well that we can see where the quotations are coming from. Lots of hands. I'll go to Eric, then Dan, then Lois, and then we'll move on.
I was just kind of hoping that Horatio sing like "I can't get no satisfaction" or something. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was going to say that I was wondering because, like you mentioned Dr. Faustus. I was thinking of Spanish tragedy in this scene because of Horatio, I don't know. There's a part of me going like maybe it's just like the splicing of references and like see how many you can get like a sort of like a early modern bingo kind of thing.
Yeah, but I say so far we haven't really located any. I mean, it's really not picking. Nothing's sparking with me of going. This sounds a bit like this, or this sounds a bit like that.
Yeah, it's fascinating though, isn't it? Just like all the sort of like parachuting in characters from different or styles from different plays. Dan.
I think Lois was actually before me.
Oh well, I am the all-knowing, all-speaking. Dan, go first. Go on, Dan. Go on, Dan.
No, I just wanted to say, yeah, absolutely. With the songs, I think that the plays are always different when you've got the songs put in there, and then you've got the on-stage music as well. And I think it was mentioned earlier, if not, that the fact that it was written by Wiggins, that there was an hour-long, at least in one account in 1602, there was an hour-long performance beforehand, like musical type performance. I think this is all things that we just don't know the tone of this play, really, and how it's coming across. And I think we really miss a lot when we don't have.
Basically, Clarence has had a constant musical accompaniment throughout almost all of his text. I mean, he's almost never had someone not playing behind him while he's talking. And I just quite like the idea that he's just got this poor fiddle player who just has to singer who just have to constantly follow him around and guess what his mood is, which I think would be an excellent joke. And again, it may be an addition, but it's sort of feeding off what the text is doing. Lois.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I think part of the point of the song is that while we have to have something credible to explain how he manages to get this letter written at all, given that he's doing so much talking, and he's obviously writing it during the bits when he's not talking, so they can give something or other to Momford, who apparently likes it. I can't imagine why, if it looks like what we're seeing here. The other things that puzzle me, I mean, well, one thing is just that the way he talks about Momford doesn't correspond at all to our view of Momford. I mean, he's this towers above all other friends, the way a pine tree towers over box trees, and he's just absolutely wonderful. And then every time Momford opens his mouth, he comes out with some goofy remark or a joke, or he's the comic old man figure, not this ideal friend. I guess the only other thing I'd say, unless anybody wants me to explain the Deucalion reference at the end.
Oh, please do.
Chapman, I think, did get into a lot of trouble at various times for depicting real people. I mean, he, those French plays, which were about people at the French court, and the Baronne plays, where you get a description of the Queen of England, who has only just died, and she may actually have appeared on the stage, or rather somebody may have impersonated her. Somebody did impersonate a living French monarch, and he seems to have been involved in other plays that dealt with personalities that were so controversial they got completely suppressed. So it is quite possible that all of this made more sense to other people than it does to us. It still seems to me it's awfully long, though, for what it's doing.
And yet I'm still sort of enjoying it, even though I'm frequently not clear what's going on. It's good company. I'm finding that. So maybe we don't always have to understand what's going on. Okay, let us move on to Act 4. Music plays after a little interval. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Tails, Kingcob. God, that's such a difficult one to say. Kingcob, Eugenia, Hippolyta, Penelope, and Winifred.
'Tis time to leave your chests, ladies. 'Tis too studious an exercise after dinner.
Why is it called chest?
Because they lean upon their chests that plated.
I would have it called the strife of wits, for 'tis a game so witty that with strife for mastery we hunt it eagerly.
Especially where the wit of the Goose-caps are in chase, my lord.
I am a Goose-cap by the mother's side, madam. At least my mother was a Goose-cap.
And you were her white son, I warrant, my lord.
I was the youngest lady, and therefore must be her white son, the youngest of 10 I was.
And the wisest of 15.
And sweet lady, will ye cast a kind eye now upon my cousin, Sir Giles Goosecap?
Pardon, my lord, I have not a spare eye to cast away, I assure you.
I wonder how you should count it cast away, lady, upon him. Do you remember those few of good parts I rehearsed to you?
Very perfectly, my lord. Amongst which one of them was that he was the best sempster of any woman in England. Pray you, let me see some of his work.
Sweet lord, let's see him sew a little.
You shall, O my honour, lady.
He's a goodly great knight indeed, and a little needle in his hand will become him prettily.
From the Spanish pike to the Spanish needle, he shall play with any knight in England, lady.
But not a converso. From the Spanish needle to the Spanish pike.
I think he be too wise for that indeed, madam, for he has 20 miles in length in land lies together. He would be loath to bring it all to the length of a pike.
But no man commends my blunt servant, Sir Cuthbert Rudesby, methinks.
He's a kind gentleman, lady, though he be blunt, and is of this humour. The more you presume upon him without ceremony, the more he loves you. If he know you think him kind once, and will say nothing but still use him, you may melt him into any kindness you will. He is right like a woman, and had rather you should bluntly take the greatest favour you can of him than shamefastly entreat it.
He says well to you, Hippolyta.
Aye, madam, but they say he will beat one in jest and bite in kindness and tear one's rough in courtship.
Some that he makes sport withal, perhaps, but none that he respects, I assure ye.
And what's his living, Sir Clement?
Some 2,000 a year, lady.
I pray do not tell him that I asked, for I stand not upon living.
Oh, good lady, who can live without living?
Enter Momford.
Still here, lordings, good companions of faith. I see you come not for victuals.
Victuals, my lord? I hope we have victuals at home.
Aye, but sweet lord, there is a principle in the politician's physic. Eat not your meat upon other men's trenchers, and beware of surfeits of your own cost. Many good companions cannot abide to eat meat at home, you know. And how fares my noble niece now, and her fair lady fears?
What wind blows you hither, trow?
Hark ye, madam, the sweet gale of one Clarence's breath. With this his paper sail blows me hither.
Offering her a letter.
Ay me, still in that humour? Beshrew my heart if I take any papers from him.
A kind bosom, do thou take it then.
Nay then, never trust me.
Let it fall then, or cast it away, you are best, that everybody may discover your love suits. Do. There's somebody near, if you note it. And how have you spent the time since dinner, nobles?
At chests, my lord.
Read it, niece.
Here, bear it back, I pray.
I bear you on my back to hear you. And how play the ladies, Sir Clement? What men do they play best withal, with knights or rooks?
With knights, my lord.
'Tis pity their board is no broader, and that some men called gulls are not added to their game.
Why, my lord, needs not. They make the knights gulls.
That's pretty, Sir Clement. You've begun, I know, niece. Forth, I commend you.
Oh, you're a sweet uncle.
I brought her a little Greek to help me out with all, and she's so coy of her learning, forsooth, she makes it strange. Lords and ladies, I invite you all to supper tonight, and you shall not deny me.
We will attend your lordship.
We'll attend your lordship.
Come, ladies, let's into the gallery a little.
Exeunt all except for Momford and Eugenia.
And now, what says my own dear niece, Faith?
What should she say to the backside of a paper?
Come, I know you've been on the belly side.
Now, was there ever lord so prodigal of his own honoured blood and dignity?
Away with these same horse-fair allegations. Will you answer the letter?
God's my life, you go like a cunning spokesman. Answer, uncle? What do you think me, desperate of a husband?
Not so, niece, but careless of your poor uncle.
I will not write, that's certain.
What? Will you have my friend and I perish? No. Do you thirst our bloods?
Oh, you are in mighty danger, no doubt on it.
If you have our bloods, beware our ghosts, I can tell ye. Come, will you write?
I will not write, i' faith.
Faith, Damon, I must be your secretary, I see. Here's the letter. Come, do you dictate and I'll write.
If you write no otherwise than I dictate, it will scarce prove a kind answer, I believe.
Oh, but you will be advised, I trust. Secretaries are of counsel with their countesses. Thus it begins. Suffer him to love that suffers not loving. What answer you to that?
He loves extremely that suffers not in love.
Ah, he answers you for that presently. His love is without passion, and therefore free from alteration. For pati, you know, is in alterationem labi. He loves you in his soul, he tells you, wherein there is no passion. Say, dame, what answer you?
Nay, if I answer anything.
Well, very well. I'll answer for you.
You answer? Shall I set my hand to your answer?
Aye, by my faith shall ye.
By my faith, but you shall answer as I would have you then.
Always put in with advice of your secretary, niece. Come, what answer you?
Since you needs will have my answer, I'll answer briefly to the first and last part of his letter.
Do so, niece, and leave the midst for himself, in God's name. So what is your answer?
He writes and she dictates.
I cannot but suffer you to love, if you do love.
Why, very good. There it is. And will requite your love. Say you so?
Beshrew my lips then, my lord.
Oh, beshrew my fingers, but you shall. Well, you may promise to requite his love, and yet not promise him marriage, I hope. Well, and will requite your love.
Nay, good my lord, hold your hand, for I'll be sworn I'll not set my hand to it.
Well, hold off your hand, good madam, till it should come on. I'll be ready for it anon, I warrant ye. Now, fourth, my love is without passion, and therefore free from alteration. What answer you to that, madam?
Even this, my lord. Your love, being mental, needs no bodily requital.
I'm content with that. And here it is, but in heart.
What but in heart?
Hold off your hand yet, I say. Do embrace and repay it.
You may write, uncle, but if you get my hand to it...
Ah, lass, niece, this is nothing. Is anything to a bodily marriage to say you love a man in soul, if your hearts agree and your bodies meet not. Simple marriage rites. Now let us forth. He is in the way to felicity and desires your hand.
My hand shall always sign the way to felicity.
Oh, very good. May not any woman say this now? Conclude now, sweet niece.
And so God prosper your journey.
Charitably concluded, though far short of that love I would have shown to any friend of yours, niece, I swear to you. Your hand now, and let this little stay his appetite.
Read what you have writ, my lord.
Oh, what needs that, madam? You remember it, I'm sure.
Well, if it wants sense in the composition, let my secretary be blamed for it. There's my hand.
And she signs.
Thanks, gentle niece. Now I'll read it.
Why now more than before, I pray?
That you shall see straight. I cannot but suffer you to love, if you do love, and will requite your love.
Remember that requital was of your own putting in, but it shall be after my fashion, I warrant ye.
Interrupt me no more. Your love, being mental, needs no bodily requital, but in heart I embrace it and repay it. My hand shall always sign the way to felicity, and myself, knit with you in the bands of marriage, ever walk with you in it, and so God prosper our journey. Eugenia.
God's my life, 'tis not thus, I hope.
Oh, by my life, but it is, niece.
By my life, but 'tis none of my deed then.
Do you use to set your hand to that which is not your deed? Your hand is at it, niece, and if there be any law in England, you shall perform it too.
Why, This is plain dishonoured deceit. Does all your truest kindness end in law?
Have patience, niece, for whatsoe'er I say, only the laws of faith and thy free love shall join my friend and thee, or not at all. By my friend's love and by this kiss, it shall.
Why, thus did false Aconitus snare Sidipes.
Indeed, dear love, his wife while was somewhat like, and then 'tis no unheard of treachery that was enacted in a goddess' eye. A conscious worthy love feared not Diana, before whom he contrived this sweet deceit.
Well, there you have my hand. But I'll be sworn I never did things so against my will.
'Twill prove the better, madam, doubt it not. And to allay the billows of your blood, raised with my motion bold and opposite, dear niece, sup with me and refresh your spirits. I've invited your companions with the 2 guests that dined with you today, and will send for the old Lord Furnifall, the captain and his mates, and though at night we will be merry as the morning lark.
No, no, my lord. You will have Clarence there.
Alas, poor gentleman. I must tell you now, he's extreme sick, and was so when he writ, though he did charge me not to tell you so. And for the world he cannot come abroad.
Is this the man that without passion loves?
I do not tell you he is sick with love, or if he be, 'tis wilful passion, which he doth choose to suffer for your sake, and could restrain his sufferance with a thought. Upon my life, he will not trouble you, and therefore, worthy niece, fail not to come.
I will, on that condition.
'Tis performed. For were my friend well and could comfort me, I would not now entreat your company. But one of you I must have, or I die. Oh, such a friend is worth a monarchy.
And exeunt. So, yes, we've had another one of these lengthy engagements between Momford and Eugenia after sort of opening gambits of sort of just general chatter, really. I mean, setting a nice scene. Actually, I quite liked all the tales and Kingcob stuff. There were a few issues with some of it, but I'm a goose-cap by my mother's side, madam. I liked that. And then we have this lengthy little letter trick of, oh, well, I'll write it out for you, and you don't need to read it, just sign the bottom. Well, I've sort of got this. This is enough for a breach of promise, isn't it? There's all sorts of questions about what's going on with Eugenia here, and where she is on this. Is she being led? Is she, on some level agreeing, but not agreeing, and because Momford seems like he's spending a lot of time going, well, if you really don't agree, we won't hold you to this, but I've got it now. And so it keeps dancing back and forth between those positions. So I suppose it very much depends on the tone of where you want the scene to go, of how you play it. But you could make this quite an evil scene if you wanted to, but it's also could be quite a fun, light, happy scene. So let's see where that room takes it. Lynn, then Alan, then Eric.
Yes, I'm very curious how this all turns out, because it doesn't seem very consistent with Eugenia's character as I've been interpreting it, to sign something without reading it, especially when she knows she can't trust her uncle. So, why would she do that? But consistency of character is not necessarily something that we should be looking for in a play from this period. So I really don't have a sense of what's actually going on here.
Eric. No, Alan, then Eric.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, there's been quite a lot going on in the chat in terms of reminiscence of other plays, and certainly this idea of the letter written by somebody else allegedly taking down from dictation. I'm sure we've had that trope a number of times in plays of just prior to this period. And I'm just wondering whether this is almost a greatest hits show of, oh, well, that routine worked quite nicely when it was on a year or so back. We'll stick that in, and oh, we've had another one with a load of posh twits. That usually goes down well. That gets bums on seats. So I'm just wondering whether there's a little bit of compilation type work going on in this.
Eric.
Yeah, I was wondering, it's just like, it feels like Momford has run scams before, the kind of like, oh, you don't need to look at it, kind of like just sort of like maybe as a child, like sort of forging his parents' like handwriting so he doesn't have to go to school with someone, or even the whole, if you want something more elaborate, the whole thing of like, oh yes, I totally own the Empire State Building, you can sign for it here, and just like sort of handing someone a piece of paper that isn't actually the deeds for such a thing, and getting him to sign it. It depends how convincing you play him, I think, because Eugenia indeed doesn't seem to respond very violently, which you would kind of, I mean, she does protest quite a bit, and then sort of goes, I'll live with this so far. I don't know, it's just interesting.
I mean, the thing that I think for a modern audience with this that might find distinctly weird is, of course, at no point is anyone wooing directly. I mean, they never meet. I mean, we were able to double Eugenia and Clarence with the same person because they never actually talk to each other, because they haven't, and everybody is using proxies, and it's not an unknown thing in early modern drama. I think that this sort of thing is going on. So there's and the fact that we have effectively almost a legal document going on here, the way that a marriage contract is a contract, kind of logic playing here. So it's not a play you could modernise and say this is per se, and say set in a modern context, because I don't think there is one that parallels this in a particularly clear way. I mean, yes, you can have someone going up to someone saying my friend likes you, but I don't think you don't go into this level of detail. At some point the wooer has to actually do some sodding wooing. They kind of have to find out if they actually like each other at some point. Eric.
I was just going to say that also kind of this does have a bit of a Dr. Faustus vibe to it. Like you said earlier, it's got that thing of sort of, just sign here, your soul, nothing will happen to your soul, nothing can possibly happen.
To be fair, Dr. Faustus does actually read the contract.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he's actually a scholar and sort of elaborate and stuff, and he's like, it'll be fine. I'll survive or something. And it's like overestimating his abilities, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think hell's a fable.
Yeah.
And of course at the end here we got the setup, because Eugenia does see through what he's doing. Oh, we're all going to Lord Furnifall's, and they're going. As we keep being told that we're going there. I hope it's better be good. When we get there. But they keep saying that, and she immediately goes, "Oh, you're going to have Clarence there," and she says, "Oh no, he's sick." Mm-hmm. Oh no, he's so sick, and he said, "I thought he said he wasn't in a passion or anything." Oh no, it's a coincidence. Mm-hmm. He can't go, and so all these little things, you're sitting there going, "Yeah, he's going to turn up." Mm-hmm. Lois.
Yeah, this is looking more and more like Troilus and Cressade. Actually, I'm pretty sure that Cressade eventually goes to visit sick Troilus, and it's the sort of thing that Chapman would certainly have known. I mean, that's probably why this sounds like so many other things. I mean, he was a very learned man. He was respected for his learning.
Yes, and we do, and all the women do seem to have quite classical names. So there's presumably there are little logics to that. Anyway, Eric, and then we'll move on.
Well, it's more a question than an observation, but I was wondering where are we having dinner at this point? Because he like Momford said, "I'm inviting you to supper with my friend Furnifall and your companions and so on." So basically, he's invited them to someone else's house, if I understand this correctly. Whereas Furnifall hasn't actually appeared or extended the invitation yet. And sort of the young boys earlier, Jack and Will were not young boys. I mean the servants, basically, pages, were inviting them to Furnifall's house also. Or is that? I just kind of have this impression that like they're gonna end up having dinner somewhere else, like maybe like the three undesirable suitors are going to end up having dinner somewhere else, like they did in An Englishman for My Money or something.
Lois.
Yeah, it is terribly confusing, but as far as I can make out, Momford has invited people to his house, and he tells Eugenia that he's going to send for the old Lord Furnifall and the captain and his mates, in fact, the rest of the cast, because we're obviously building towards the end of the play. So I don't know if this is, I see that the next scene is going to have Lord Furnifall in it finally, and I take it that'll be at Lord Furnifall's house, and then then they all come on to Momford's house. But I'm not really sure. It's terribly confusing, and they may well be getting their food from somewhere else anyway, because there were these caterers in town that they could get to bring it, which would explain why they can throw it these casual invitations to 20 people.
Yeah, yes, we'll see whether we can figure out the logistics of who's where and why as we go on. We have one more scene to do this session, Act 4, Scene 2. We're not going to finish Act 4 this session, but we will finish the next scene. Act 4, Scene 2. Enter Lord Furnifall. Huzzah! Rudesby, Goose-cap, Foulweather, and Bullaker.
Nay, my gallants, I will tell you more.
Forth, my good lord.
Forth, my good lord.
The evening came, and then our waxen stars sparkled about the heavenly court of France, when I, then young and radiant as the sun, gave lustre to those lamps, and curling thus my golden foretop stepped into the presence, where, set with other princely dames, I found the Countess of Lancalier and her niece, who, as I told you, cast so fixed an eye on my behaviours talking with the king.
True, my good
lord.
They rose when I came in, and all the lights burned dim for shame when I stood up and shined.
Oh, most passionate description, Sir Cuthbert.
True, to the candle's end.
The passingest description of a candle that ever lived, Sir Cuthbert.
Yet aimed I not at them, nor seemed to note what grace they did me, but found courtly cause to talk with an accomplished gentleman new come from Italy, in quest of news. I spake Italian with him.
What, so young?
Oh, rarissime volte cadono nel parla nostra familiare.
Slid, I could speak at night at 3-year-old.
Nay, gentle captain, do not set me forth. I love it not, in truth, I love it not.
Slight, my lord, but truth is truth, you know.
I dare ensure your lordship, truth is truth. And I have heard in France they speak French as well as their mother tongue, my lord.
Why, 'tis their mother tongue, my noble knight. But, as I tell you, I seem not to note the lady's notes of me, but held my talk with that Italianate Frenchman, and took time, still as our conference served, to show my courtship in the 3/4 leg and settled look, the quick kiss of the top of the forefinger, and other such exploits of good accost, all which the ladies took into their eyes with such attention that their favours swarmed about my bosom, in mine heart, mine ears, in scarfs about my thighs, upon mine arms, thick on my wrists, and thicker on my hands. And still the less I sought, the more I found. All this I tell to this notorious end, that you may use your courtship with less care to your coy mistresses, as when we strike a goodly salmon with a little line, we do not tug to hale her up by force, for then our line would break and our hook lost, but let her careless play amongst the stream, as you had left her, and she'll drown herself.
Oh, my life, a most rich comparison.
Never, sir, if it be not a richer comparison than my lord my cousin wore at tilt, for that was broidered with nothing but moonshine in the water, and this has salmons in it. By heaven, a most edible comparison.
Odious, thou would say, for comparisons are odious.
So they are indeed, Sir Cuthbert, all but my lords.
Be comparisons odious, Sir Cuthbert? What, like flowers?
Oh, ass, they be odorous.
What's that stinking word odorous? I can never hit on it.
And how like you my court counsel, gallants, huh?
Out of all proportion, excellent, my lord. And believe it, for emphatical courtship, your lordship puts down all the lords of the court.
No, good captain, no.
By France, you do, my lord, for emphatical courtship.
For emphatical courtship, indeed, I can do somewhat.
Then does your merry entertainment become you so festively that you have all the bravery of St. George's Day about ye when you use it?
Nay, that's too much. In sadness, captain.
Oh, good my lord, let him praise you whatsoever it cost your lordship.
I assure your lordship, your merry behaviour do so festively show upon you that every high holiday, when ladies would be most beautiful, everyone wishes to God she were turned into such a little lord as you when you're merry.
By this fire they do, my lord, I have heard them.
Marry, God forbid knight they should be turned into me. I had rather be turned into them, o' mine honour.
Then for your lordship's quips and quick jests, why, gesta Romanorum were nothing to them, O my virtue.
Well, well, well. I will hear thee no more, I will hear thee no more, good captain. Thou'st an excellent wit, and thou shalt have crowns, o' mine honour. And now, knights and captain, the fool you told me of, do you all know him?
I know him best, my lord.
Do you, Sir Giles? To him then, good knight, and be here with him, and here, and here, and here again. I mean paint upon him to us. Sir Giles, paint him lively, lively now, my good knightly boy.
Why, my good lord? He will ne'er be long from us, because we are all mortal, you know.
Very true.
And as soon as ever, we go to dinner and supper together.
Dinner and supper together? When's that, Trow?
I will come you in amongst us with his cloak buttoned loose under his chin.
Buttoned loose, my lord?
Aye, my lord, buttoned loose still, and both the flaps cast o'er before both his shoulders afore him.
Both shoulders afore him?
From before him, he means. Forth, good Sir Giles.
Like a potentate, my lord.
Much like a potentate indeed.
For all the world like a potentate, Sir Cuthbert, you know.
So, sir.
All his beard, nothing but hair.
Or something else.
Or something else, as you say.
Excellent, good.
His melons or his apricots, oranges, always in an unclean handkerchief. Very cleanly, I warrant you, my lord.
A good, neat fool, Sir Giles, of my honour.
Then his fine words that he sets them in, concatical, a fine aniseed wench fool, a pawn ticket, and so forth.
Passing strange words, believe me.
Knoweth every man at table, though he never saw him before by sight, and then will fool you so finely, my lord, that he will make your heart ache till your eyes run over.
The best that I ever heard. Gramercy, good night for thy merry description. Captain, I give thee 20 companies of commendations, never to be cashiered.
So we'll just pause there, just to see how everyone's bearing up. Are we following the witty banter that is occurring here? Are we staying with it? Again, I'm sort of enjoying it, but again, like earlier, it's just it just slides off the sides, and I struggle on a line by line basis to follow what they're actually talking about. Mm-hmm. Thoughts in the room on this particular sectionette, Lynn?
Again, like the basic gag is good, but they just milk it for too long. I mean, Furnifall's talking about how he was just the torches were ashamed to burn next to me. I was so radiant. I mean, that's maybe not as hilarious to us. His immodesty or his lack of humility is not maybe as funny to us, because the whole thing with a courtier is you make it look easy. Is you make it look like your glamour and your confidence and your skill is just, oh, it's no big deal. You don't brag about yourself. That's kind of like number one rule of courtship. And he's like telling everyone how awesome he is. So, I mean, it's a good gag, but yeah, we get it.
Lois.
Well, he also gets somebody else to go on about how awesome he is so that he can say, oh, no, really, don't brag. It just embarrasses me. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah, and then we get onto the fool subplot thing that, again, not quite sure how that's going to be hilarious yet.
Yeah.
It's like, setting up, what's this fool going to be like? Well, there's going to be stuff and things, and looks around the room at a fruit bowl and just starts listing the things that they can see in front of them. That's how I'm visualizing that moment. It's just stuff and things. So I'm sure that's going to be hilarious when we get to it, because it's been signposted so far ahead now that like the Furnifall himself. Eric.
I'm trying to work out sort of the whole, his cloak buttoned loose under his chin, and then like what? Just I mean, I get the beard joke and stuff, but then it's like, am I missing something here?
Aliki, and then Lois.
So I'm not sure about that particular gag, but I'm pretty sure that Goose-cap doesn't understand 9/10 of what is said to him, and then repeats back what he thinks he's understood. So he's picked it up from somewhere else, like he picked up the, oh, I know the fool best of all, because of the joke that Rudesby, I think, made about him knowing fools best of all being a fool.
Lois.
Yeah, I think Goose-cap frequently just says, I'm not sure if they're called, I think they're called bulls, statements that are inherently contradictory. And I think that's the point about that thing being buttoned loose. I mean, if it's loose, it's not buttoned. If it's buttoned, it's not loose, And Rudesby keeps picking him up on this kind of thing. And other people kind of explain what he really meant, or tell him that he can't possibly mean that.
Okay, well, let's finish the scene. We're midway through, and we have the entrance of Jack and Will on the other side. I don't know if they've passed over or... So anyway, enter Jack and Will on the other side.
Save your lordship.
Save your lordship.
My pretty cast of Merlins, what prophecies with your little masterships?
Things that cannot come to pass, my lord. The worse our fortunes.
Why, what's the matter, pages?
Well, how now? My lady's foisting hounds.
Master Jack, how do you, Master William? Frolic?
Not so frolic as you left us, Sir Giles.
Why, Wags, what news bring you, a God's name?
Heavy news indeed, my lord. Pray pardon us.
Heavy news? Not possible your little bodies could bring 'em then. Unload those your heavy news, I beseech ye.
Why, my lord, the fool we took for your lordship is thought too wise for you, and we dare not present him.
Slid, pages, you'll not cheats of our fool, will ye?
Why, Sir Giles, he's too dogged and bitter for you, in truth. We shall bring you a fool to make you laugh, and he shall make all the world laugh at us.
Aye, indeed, Sir Giles, and he knows you so well, too.
Know me? So the slight, he knows me no more than the beggar knows his dish.
Faith, he begs you to be content, Sir Giles, for he will not come.
Beg me? Slight, would I had known that. The other day I thought I'd met him in Paul's, and he had been anybody else but a pillar, I would have run him through, by heavens. Beg me?
He begs you to be content, Sir Giles. That is, he prays you.
Oh, does he praise me? Then I commend him.
Let this unsuitable fool go, Sir Giles. We will make shift without him.
That we will, my lord. My word, my lord. And have him, too, for all this.
Do not you say so, Sir Giles, for to tell you true, that fool is dead.
Dead? Slight, that cannot be, man. I know he would have writ to me and had been so.
Quick or dead, let him go, Sir Giles.
Aye, my lord, for we have better news for you to hearken after.
What are they, my good novations?
My lord Momford entreats your lordship and these knights and captain to accompany the Countess Eugenia and the other two ladies at his house at supper tonight.
All desiring your lordship to pardon them for not eating your meat tonight.
With all my heart, wags, and there's amends. My hearts, now set your courtship at the last for the tainters, and prick up yourselves for the ladies.
Oh, brave! Sir Cuthbert, come, let's prick up the ladies.
And will not the knight's two noble kinsmen be there?
Both will be there, my lord.
Why, there's the whole lotters then, and there shall we knock up the whole triplicity of your nuptials.
I'll make my lord my cousin speak for me.
And your lordship will be for me, I hope?
With tooth and nail, captain, or my lordship.
Hang 'em tits. I'll pummel myself into 'em.
Your lordship, your cousin, Sir Giles, has promised the ladies they shall see you so.
That's me. Would I might never be mortal if I do not carry my work with me.
Do so, Sir Giles, and withal use means to taint their high bloods with the shaft of love. Sometimes a finger's motion wounds their minds, a jest, a gesture, or a pretty laugh, a voice, a present. Things done in the nick wound deep and sure, and let fly your gold, and we shall nuptials have, hold, belly, hold.
Oh, rare Sir Cuthbert, we shall eat nutshells. Hold, belly, hold!
Exeunt Furnifall and the knights, leaving the
pitiful.
servants behind.
Oh, pitiful knight that knows not nuptials from nutshells.
And now, qu'en portez-vous, monsieur?
Porte-main, vous remercie.
We may see it indeed, sir, and you shall go afore with us.
No, good monsieur.
Another crash in my lady's cellar, if faith, monsieur.
Merci de bon cœur, monsieur.
And they exit. Okay. I have a question. What was the fool thing for? Was it simply for them to talk about this fool that's coming and then for them to say he's not coming? What? I'm confused. Lois.
I don't know.
Aliki, then Lynn.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory that eventually Sir Giles Goosecap is going to be tricked somehow into appearing as the fool, but I could be wrong, but it looks to me as if these boys are working up to something like that.
Well, I assumed that's where it was going, and then this happened, and I'm utterly bewildered because I assumed that he was going to protect. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think this was. I mean, I quite like the idea they just turn up and do a sort of Bunbury honours of just going, Bunbury's dead. He was quite exploded. But it's not that, is it? Yeah. So it's. Oh, I don't know. Aliki.
A lot of the descriptions of the fool in this scene seemed like they might apply to Clarence. Kind of. I don't know. That's how I read it, as if that's going to be the way it plays.
I mean, this is really interesting. I mean, Goosecap has not had. I don't think he's been played quite as. There's a lot more on Goosecap's misunderstandings in this scene than I felt we've had earlier. I mean, it's like almost like. Oh, here's the comedy business we can go. Because at the beginning of the play, Goosecap's business was all about catchphrases. And then that sort of disappeared almost entirely. And now we're here with misunderstandings. And it doesn't feel consistent across the text. Lynn?
Well, my hypothesis, although I'm not completely sold on this at all, about the fool thing, is that it's an excuse for more kind of topical digs. That the fool who's too wise and too bitter, those are actually references to fools in acting companies that were active in London at the time.
Yes, it could be there. I mean, I just still feel, you could do an aside about fools somehow without this sort of, because it's had a setup and then it's got this, and it's like I don't know what it's doing. And one of the things about comedy is you kind of do need to tell the audience what the funny is at some point. The funny doesn't happen by accident; it has to be set up, and I don't feel anything's been set up, and I don't feel we've got a payoff. And if there's a payoff later, I'm very confused. Alan, then Lois.
Just a quick thought. Are we not just about the point of Kemp's death, who was probably the most celebrated fool of the Elizabethan stage?
Maybe not quite-ish.
He's still alive in
yeah.
1602.
Is he? Oh, right.
No, nobody quite knows when he died. Yeah, he's working for Henslow at that point.
Oh, right.
Lois.
Yeah, and in Volpone, which is a couple of, 1605, isn't it? There's a reference to a fool named Stone who is dead. Then you get the awful joke, Stone dead. Anyway, yeah, but I think,
forward to.
Yeah, I think there might be a visual joke here. I mean, there are basically three fools, aren't there? And there's that famous picture, "We three loggerheads be," which in fact is only two fools, but because the person looking at them is supposed to be the third fool. And there might be something like that going on here. I mean, there's just so much talk about fools and this stuff about the bitter fool and the sweet fool. I mean, if the boys could find some way of making it obvious that they were turning each of these three into a fool at some point, or that the three of them adopt a pose which makes them look like, because I mean, I know another dramatist does something like, did you ever see the picture of We Three? And that is a kind of visual joke as well as a joke about everybody being fools. I mean, something like that, in a play of the same year as this, I think, is yeah.
I think you've broken my duck caller. Okay. Stop cracking. Anyway, there was some. I did quite like Furnifall. A lot of the time, there's something quite fun about them. I did love the way that when Will and Jack come in with heavy news, and it's going, "Not possible, your little bodies could bring them." Then, because of course they're the pages. They're presumably the smallest actors, the youngest actors in the company, and so it's It's a fun little thing. Okay, any other thoughts about this particular scene before we move on to final thoughts? Eric?
Yeah, I'm just intrigued by because yesterday we were debating whether Goose-cap can actually do all the things, his uncle or cousin or whatever can actually do. Said that he could do. I think it was Tails was talking about Goose-cap, yeah. And does this whole thing of, he can walk on eggshells without breaking them and all that stuff. And he's the best seamster in England, of the women of England, or whatever the line was. And he does have, Jack actually tells him, they're waiting for you to sew. And Goose-cap does go, "Oh, I might never be mortal if I do not carry my work with me." So there's a part of me going, does he actually know how to sew, or is he just like going along with the flow? Sort of like, I've seen people sew before. I can totally do this.
And I do like, some of the wordplay is quite fun. We shall have nuptials. Yes, we shall eat nutshells. Yay! I mean, Goose-cap's very happy about the idea of food. It's there's interesting stuff that's going on. Okay. I think it's time to talk about the play overall for those who've been here for the two sessions, and just this session overall for those who've only been here for this one. I think in general sense, it's doing more of the same from earlier. There's a sense of there's a destination. We're heading for this dinner. The location does seem to have changed. I think it's fair to say that for Furnifall, maybe this is the dinner they were talking about earlier, but now we've got another dinner that everybody's going to. We know there's going to be a dinner, and all the hijinks and stuff is going to happen in Act 5. We've got another scene in Act 4 to go. No spoilers here, but it's Momford and Clarence, and I'm not suggesting it's going to be a bit like any of the previous scenes, but I suspect it might be quite similar to some of the earlier scenes. I'm just guessing. I actually haven't read it. I just see words, and many more on top of that. So final thoughts from the room. Lois first, I think.
Oh, well, I don't really know if I've got anything to say on it. It's, it's one of these things where everything depends on the actors, I would imagine.
It does feel very actor dependent, doesn't it? It feels like this is one where this is material for actors to do a lot with, and possibly written for specific actors who know what to do with this kind of material. The topicality is not helping. It does feel like it's constant, and we've had this conversation before about, this is sometimes the problem with other texts where, they're constantly using slang and references that nobody gets anymore, and it creates a barrier that is a genuine problem, because it's not the play's fault, it's just history. It's a combination, I think, here. Sarah, any final thoughts?
I don't know. Well, certainly, I don't know about the original, but from the perspective of staging it now, I think it needs to be director dependent, honestly, because I think you need a director who finds a way through this, finds a line through it. Because I think, I don't know yet. It depends what's going to happen. What's going to happen? But based on what we've read so far, there are wildly different ways you could take this play. I think you need somebody who cuts their way through it and finds a line through it, and then says, right, we're doing it this way, here you go. And then you give it to your really, your bravura actors, and they bring it to life. But I haven't yet found a line through it. I ship Momford and Clarence. I love Lynn's idea. I don't think it's going to turn out that way, but I really wish it did. I thought it was quite interesting, that scene between Momford and Eugenia, because yesterday we were saying that the women sort of cut through the nonsense. They were like a bit of a palate cleanse. They just come in every so often and just sort of cut through everybody with their genuine wit and sort of sanity. And I thought that scene was interesting because, in that scene, she starts off but then she actually gets drawn into it, and it's like, there is no way that a sensible woman would A, fall for this in the first place and then continue the game, but she does. And it's almost like the kind of whole craziness, the whole, everybody in this play is a fool to some degree or another, and she's sort of gradually being sucked into it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to her. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to say. I'm perplexed. I'm it's not that I'm not enjoying it. I kind of am. But not in any coherent way.
No, and I think that is genuine. It does have a certain lightness, does have some really nice lines. It's got situations I can build things on. I think the improv element is important. I think you do absolutely need 3 incredibly good people to pull off those central nights. Those 3 nights are, they've got to work together. They've got to make those scenes sing. And if you don't cast that correctly, the rest of the play falls apart. Because, in a sense, I mean, it was an exaggeration to say anyone could play Clarence or anyone could play Eugenia, but they are much more straightforward roles, even if they are being mocking. Momford, again, is a slightly more straightforward role, but there are questions about motivation. There are questions about characterization. I think it's a matter that Goose-cap seems to be a slightly different character from the beginning of the play, and the actor needs to resolve that somehow, and make that work, and maybe move some jokes about so that they're consistently spread across the whole text. We've already talked about it needing to be trimmed back, but again, yeah, I'm sort of enjoying it. And I don't know precisely why. I'll go back to Lois, who didn't have a very expansive final thought.
Yeah, well, it's just that when you were saying that Clarence is straightforward, it's true, but there was something I meant to point out in that long bit where he was soliloquizing with music. And there's a really funny section where he suddenly says, I should be a husband. I should do all these boring things that husbands have to do. Good God, why am I getting into this? Which is so weird in the middle of all this platonic stuff and how much he loves Eugenia and so on. It's as if he suddenly gets realistic. Do I really want to get married? This is sort of the odd thing with the play. I mean, it's a counterpart in a way of Eugenia, who I think is just sort of going back and forth, no, I shouldn't possibly put up with this proxy wooing. On the other hand, Clarence is probably the least awful of the various men who are after her, and maybe wouldn't be too bad. I mean, they're just, I don't know if Chapman is enjoying depicting contrary emotions in people, but in a way, Sir Giles's ability to say nonsense by saying the same two opposite things in one sentence kind of sums up the way people are feeling.
And maybe a clue to Clarence's shifts is actually musically based. If there's a love song playing in the background, so he's in love, and then it's just love is rubbish, and then he just goes, no, why am I doing this? Wake up, man, wake up.
Yeah.
That might work, and again, that might be a fun gag, and that might bring it to life. There's so many modes that could push this play into very different directions, so I'm quite curious on that. Okay, so someone who wasn't here yesterday who might be totally bemused. Let's go to Emma. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've been enjoying this. Obviously, I haven't been getting all of it, as we've been saying. So I was reading Clarence and Furnifall. Clarence, I didn't find him that exciting, but I think that's purely because on a cold reading, as we've discussed, you don't get all of the comedy and potential. That's something you have to try and work out as you work on it more, I suppose. And there have been some great ideas coming up about how you could use music to kind of lift that. So that's something that's worth pursuing. And then the other character, Furnifall, I enjoyed more. I think because I love character parts, and he's a big character part. He's kind of enjoying all the younger people matchmaking, and he kind of reminded me a bit of the what are they called? Mr. and Mrs. Jennings in Sense and Sensibility, kind of really getting in on on the young people's matchmaking and getting very excited about it. So I enjoyed that character. Yeah.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem waiting for, oh God. We seem to have got four acts in and bugger all's happened. It's a weird piece, and I the one or two scenes which I say earlier remind me of other things that we've seen elsewhere. And one thing I'm disappointed by is we had that lovely character sketch earlier given of Lady Furnifall. And yet she doesn't seem to feature in the play anywhere. And that almost looks like a missed opportunity.
Yes. Who else wasn't here last time? Kyle, any final thoughts?
I felt like I didn't get any traction throughout, and I think it's because I came in the middle here, and we haven't gone to the end. And but yeah, I and I also think that it's kind of got these little moments of philosophical kind of nuggets that are maybe kind of rabbit holes that I've been thinking about but don't go anywhere. So
yeah, we don't always have to. Yeah, I like rabbit holes, so yeah, maybe one of them will. Maybe one day we'll get there. Aliki, any final thoughts?
I'm enjoying it a lot more than yesterday. Maybe it's just that I've tuned into the humor more, and I have more of a sense of where the physicality of it might lie. I'm curious to see whether there is I'm curious to see whether the payoff is worth all of the build-up.
I mean, we have been here before with this kind of structured play where it's all heading towards the exciting climax of Act 5, and then Act 5 happens. And we're not sure about a lot of the build-up. I mean, sometimes actually the Act 5 has turned out to be very good, but there's so much build-up to it that you wonder whether the journey was really necessary. I don't know what this one is going to do. Stephen, any final thoughts?
Well, sort of one constructive one and one unconstructive one, maybe. I'm wondering about, the things that people have been saying. I really should find out about this, but I'm just thinking, if it's a boys' company, if any company is actually going to have somebody functioning kind of as a director, it will be a boys' company, won't it? Because, and also, we as kind of cold readers, we do benefit from plays that have been through, the sort of late Elizabethan repertory system where the actor gets their part and they've got to go away. And those lines have to make sense to an actor without any of the other lines. And if you've got a boys' company, you don't need to write like that. So in a sense, sometimes boys' company plays feel like they're way, way ahead of their time. But from the kind of cold reading point of view, maybe that's not so good for us. So that's a constructive point, and the unconstructive point is really, I'm just kind of like most people, it seems, I'm just kind of 2-year-old kicking the back of mummy's seat going, are we there yet? This play is going to need one hell of a boss level is all I can say, because it's M to the E to the H for me so far, I'm afraid.
Dan, any final thoughts? You weren't here yesterday, so thrown in the middle.
I wasn't here, but it doesn't really bother me either, because it's kind of just repeating what I said earlier. I'm just enjoying the ride. I don't feel like there probably is a lot more meaning that I'm not getting, a lot more references I'm not getting, but it's not bothering me that I'm not. I don't feel like I'm lost in the sense that I need to know what everything meant in order for me to follow along or to enjoy the play. I don't find that at all. It's one of those where I'll go to a film and there'll be people like, oh, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. I'm thinking it doesn't matter, that doesn't make sense. If you're watching cartoons or whatever, you're just going along with and watching the performances and going along with the jokes. And if you like that sort of humor, brilliant. If you don't, no worries. I mean, that's just what you enjoy. Lots of times I like to watch films with plots, and lots of times, other times I want to watch things like this, which are pretty light and frothy. And I watch something by Edwards Boys, which I can really picture them doing this type of play and thoroughly enjoy it, because I can trust that their director is going to do a good job with it. It's in good hands, and they've got some great performers, and they put the key ones in the right places, and good music, and there you go. So yeah, I don't feel like the scenes have been, even, I know that's been a recurring theme that, well, it's going on, banging on too long about it. I'm thinking, well, yeah, these are tried and true things. I think that if done well, I'm going to continue enjoying it. If it's not done well, that's another story. So that's how I feel, but
Yes, so it's one of those things about the way the material moves around and what the performer's going to do with it. I do feel it's one of those ones with potential where you could do this really well, but you could also do this really badly. It's not one of those box fresh ones, just pick it out and hand it to some actors. I mean, Stephen's point earlier about this is the kind of show that requires direction, that requires knowing, that someone knowing what is going on, who can just tell the actor, right, this is the gag, this is how you do this scene, let's rehearse it for a while, because you can, because the repertoire is slightly less turnover-y as Playhouse drama is. Eric, any final thoughts?
I've been wondering, well, for one, what's the modern performance history of this? Because there's a part of me going surely there's lots of people who would know what to do with this if it's been performed. I mean, that's why. And my other thought was, it's a bit sort of reminding me of, I think it was Every Man in His Humor, which we've read, where you've got sort of someone basically collecting, or the equivalent modern version would be I can't remember the title. Sort of Le Dîner de Con, where you've got like sort of collecting idiots for a dinner kind of thing. But that one was more clear from the beginning, and that which is, I mean, both plays are a lot clearer from the beginning, whereas this one seems to be more like a setup gag, and then see what happens. Unless indeed Act 5 is going to be the big sort of unleashing of energies or something. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not seeing much in the way of a modern performance history for it, but I'm not saying there isn't one. But I can't immediately find one. Can't even find a particularly good modern edition, let alone performance history. So it doesn't feel like it's had that much of the crack of the whip. But we may talk about that more another time. Lynn, any final thoughts?
I'm muted here. Well, I kind of agree with everybody. I think Lois is right. It's really actor dependent. You need some very charismatic, energetic, skillful actors to play off particularly the part of the courtier wooers. Yeah, and Goose-cap seems to get dumber as the play goes on, so you need an actor to kind of impose some kind of unity on that. And I think Sarah's right that it needs to have a kind of unifying director's vision. What is this play trying to do? What's the mood? All of that. And I also think it's going to be really dramaturg dependent. You are going to, I joke about the editor's pruning shears, just cut it. But I think this one really needs more like the editor's scalpel. You've got to shorten this scene, shorten this scene, shorten this scene. Because once the gag is made, I don't think a modern audience is going to have patience for how drawn out some of the gags are. Even though the original gags are actually, I'm finding them pretty amusing. So that's my thought. It's going to need some talent applied to it to make it successful on stage, in modern circumstances. But we'll see how it ends. It might be worth that effort.
Yes, we come towards the curse of the final session. Will the play land? Will everyone live happily ever after, or unhappily ever after in a satisfying way? It's so difficult to tell. Eric?
I was just wondering also if this is sort of like, I know we've said this a million times that like Night of the Burning Pestle is years ahead of this, but I'm wondering if this is that kind of compilation element but like the plays that we've that this refers to, or plays that generally the references that are made in this play are just sort of lost to us, whereas Night of the Burning Pestle seems to do it much more hilariously.
I don't think in the sense that I don't think it's a parody in the same way in that sense. I'm sure it may have references, and we had plenty of plays that are chock full of references that are, that's the game that's going on there, or deliberate spoofs of turns, or people working their way through their own acting repertoire in a sort of comic melee. But it doesn't seem overt in this text. I mean, the problems of topicality, are often just the problems of, if we had an edition with lots of decent glosses, we'd be able to say, this means this, and this means this, and this means this. And we don't have that shorthand to hand at the moment. But it's the kind of thing that an audience wouldn't get. And it's this question when we're talking about filleting, it's just a matter of, can we find any modern analogues for any of these references? And a lot of them, I just don't think there are analogues. It's of its time. How much can we communicate to a modern audience and keep it fun and light rather than as a strange sort of curiosity? But I think this is one of those things that the proof is only ever going to be in the pudding. You've got to put it on and put it in front of an audience. And then if it dies, then use that data to try again with a different cast and a different producer and a different audience. I mean, this is what we do, is we keep returning to plays, to try and understand how they function in different contexts. So yeah, this increasingly, goes high on the list of one to workshop and play around with, because Yeah, there's a lot of unpicking to do here to make it land. Anyway, I must close the session now. We have one more session, which may or may not land in the meal of the Furnifall, Momford, Clarence, everybody there, mealness. We will find out how it all lands. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Strange stuff, my lord.